just been listening to the instrumental sounds of the instrumentalist musician, Sirius Nubian. Now, we do have our first guest on our brand new podcast. His name is Mario Louis. He's a singer, he's a songwriter, he's a musician, he's a producer, he's also an actor. He's here, we're interviewing him today. The interview is in two parts, so you're going to hear the first part on this podcast. You'll hear the second part of the interview on next week's podcast, so stay tuned for that. But yeah, Mario Louis, a very positive gentleman, seems to be very, very organized, very, very talented. So we're going to hear the interview now. Here's the interview. This is Mario Louis.
Right, so you got some a lot of Latino influence in the music for the album that's coming next.
Yeah.
And it's going to have, pop sound to it because of the North American influence. A little bit of R&B.
Yeah.
I love the R&B. And as well, so have that and see where it goes from there. I think it's a good fusion because it also reflects on myself and my story and who I am.
Yeah.
And I think that's very expressive. I think it's good, obviously. So that's what's coming up for me next. That's what I want to do.
Right.
There was a good response to a song that I had on my previous album, which it was kind of like a pop reggaeton type of song, and it had a good response. And so this is why I'm trying to expand on what people like more and what I enjoy more, so we can, make something good, make something happen.
That's good.
Yeah, and as well in that album I had a really good kind of a soulful kind of country song. It wasn't country, but it was like more pop, right? Mm-hmm. But it also had a really good response amongst the DJs and local radio stations. They really enjoyed it. Of course, the single of that album was called What's a Guy to Do, which is produced and composed. I co-produced the song, but it was produced by Richard Ugolo, which is a producer that I worked with for the album before this.
Right.
Richard Ugolo has a lot of experience. That man plays a lot of instruments. He plays so many instruments, and for me, he was obviously the person to go to.
Literally plays instruments.
Yeah.
Not the plug-in.
No. He literally plays the instruments.
Yeah, right.
He has all kinds of instruments in his studios where I recorded and mastered the album.
Where's the studio located?
The studio is located Lansdowne and DuPont.
Okay.
But it's his own at-home studio. But the man is obviously, I say the man, but he's a friend of mine for a long time. He knows what he practically lives in there, and he's very good at what he does.
Yeah.
As well, myself, I've known him since I was 17 years old.
Okay.
For a very long time, I've known him, and he used to work at a studio down by, you probably might know it. It was called Studio 92. It's located in O'Connor and Donlands. It was a popular studio because I remember when I went to school, because I went to school for visual and recording arts. And
is that Trebas?
No, it's IADT.
Okay.
They moved on to they moved from Canada.
Right.
But it doesn't really help me in my credentials. If they're moving out of Canada, people won't know who they are. Yeah. But so the people that were in that school too, they also, a lot of them teachers well respected that knew a lot about sound engineering, had gone to Studio 92 to record. So it was a studio that had a good name. Cool. It had its name out there professionally, right? Mm-hmm. So I would go there, record all my tracks, and that's how I met Richard Ugolo, the producer. Mm-hmm. And of course, over time, the way I found myself was through cover tracks. Yeah. So, of course, right, a lot of us do that. And I was, of course, writing music on the side and learning throughout the process of recording how I can compose.
Right.
In this previous album that I'm still promoting right now, I wrote 4 of the songs in there. Mm-hmm. So, again, it's based on everything that I learned throughout my recording history, right? Because I've been recording and writing for such a long time. And eventually you kind of reach in your mind a kind of how can I explain it, a consolidation, where you're like, I know what I'm doing. This is
Yeah.
what I want to do,
Yeah.
and this is how I want to deliver it.
Yeah.
Whether people like it or not, or whether you know what I mean. But
That's the way it is.
You have a grasp on what the ideas you want to do.
Oh, yeah.
Because before you know, when you're brand new to something like this, which for me was a very long time ago, you kind of like look at it like, am I doing this right? And you kind of create unrealistic imagination about how things work. Rather than when you learn more, you become more realistic about things, and therefore your results
Well,
become.
you have a better perspective.
You have a better perspective, and therefore your results become a lot better and closer to what, I kind of expected this would happen kind of thing, if it went wrong or if it went right. But of course, in all fairness, unexpected things will happen when you're in the recording studio. As you know, I know that some of my recording vocal pieces, my best ones, some of my best ones were actually done more or less by accident, right?
Do you do pre-production first? Work it all out before you go into the studio and lay it down?
Yeah, I think that's a very good point that you're bringing up, because I think that it's because you want to be able to. I mean, the way I approach it is I want to do as much work as I can as possible beforehand, and then when I go to the studio, I come with the gold.
Yeah, just lay it all down.
Yeah, you don't. I mean, it would be really like, how can I say, like amateurish to go in there not knowing what you're doing. For me, that's not my style.
Yeah,
For me,
it's just productive.
Yeah.
And progressive.
Exactly.
Right? Before you go, because if you're like, say if you had like a label, signed to a label.
Yeah.
And you book the studio time.
Yeah.
Those studios are expensive.
Yes, exactly.
So you have to have everything laid out first.
Exactly.
The structure of the song, how you want it arranged, right? So when you go to the studio, you just lay it all down.
Exactly.
That's it.
Exactly. And that's exactly right, because in my best moments when I'm composing a song or doing any kind of recording,